Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Satsang. We were teasing this morning that Narayani and Shirjo sure know how to manage their guests because we have done more teaching in the last 4 days. It's been really exhilarating to stretch a little more and do more when we're willing. It ties into the topic for today a little bit. Narayani said, well, why don't you talk about lessons that you've learned on the spiritual path? And another time she said, why don't you tell some stories about Swamiji? So I don't usually just tell stories about Swamiji much. He didn't tell stories about Yogananda just for the sake of a story, but when there was a moral or something that people could benefit from, and it's like I'm being re-mic'd here. Is that better? Okay. When there was something that people could benefit from, when there was an impersonal spiritual lesson that could help everyone, then he would tell a story. So I'm hoping to choose ones that will be in that direction. The thread that I thought today, in choosing the affirmation as well, was the concept of contentment. You know, in the yamas and niyamas, it says contentment is the highest virtue. The very highest virtue, and we're starting a new year. So I always figure aim for the very top. You know, we do our best. It's directional, so we're always, but at least if we start aiming at something very high and we keep our sights there, we're more likely to reach closer. So contentment is a wonderful, wonderful virtue. And let me get my story so I don't forget any of them. So this is one that I had first come to Ananda. As a child, I sort of was more content than the other children in my family. I just had that. My mother used to say she'd put me in the little playpen. I was the second child, and my sister was a big energy child, you know, big energy. And she needed a lot, and she demanded a lot, and she got a lot, and that sort of was going on over there. And I was the second child, and I was very calm and very peaceful. And my mother said she would give me one of these boxes that we would cook our oatmeal in, Quaker Oats oatmeal. And I would be in my playpen, sort of observing things, looking around at what was going on. She'd give me a box, and I would play with the box, you know, for a long time, just enjoying whatever the box was. I just wasn't that into things or wanting a lot of things. It didn't seem fun to me. So I sort of had that coming in. But then as I grew up a little bit, I started realizing that, you know, I was contented myself, but I was sensitive to the suffering around me, so then I would start suffering when everybody else was upset. I would get upset, and you know, we all have our karmas to work through. But when I finally came to Ananda, I was telling the story to others. I read the autobiography, I visited Ananda village, I learned Hong Sa, and something happened. I knew that what I'd been looking for through 32 years of looking, I'd never found anything I really, really wanted. You know, I didn't really have a lot of desires except for love. I had that one. But finally I came to Ananda and I said, I found what I'm looking for. I didn't know it existed. I didn't give up hope that it did. But in my heart, I hadn't seen it in 32 years. So, you know, I wasn't expecting to find it. But there it was. Hong Sa, meditate, go inside. There it is. There it is. It was that contentment that I had as a child, but it was also so much energy and joy and light. And I said, I found it. So I, early on, went up to Swami Kriyananda. We were at one of our group meals, and there were, I don't know, it was Spiritual Renewal Week. There were maybe a couple hundred people there. Big energy in the room, big noise, you know, kind of a din of everybody visiting with each other, and Swami was on the other side, and I said, he's there. So I walked up to him, I said, Swamiji, I know what I want. I could hardly contain myself, you know, I was just almost jumping up and down for joy. He said, what is that? I said, well, Swamiji, I want nirvikalpa samadhi. And he looked at me, kind of, I'd met him a couple times, he sort of knew who I was in there, but kind of looked at me and he said, we have to get your feet on the ground. So with that spirit, that initial spirit of the blessing of the Guru, finding the Guru again after however long it's been since I'd been with the Guru, and just that great joy, and I was working, I finally was able to move to Ananda, so I left everything that I had and I moved to Ananda, and I was just there, and I looked around, I saw these great souls doing all these wonderful things for Master. I saw Swamiji doing all these wonderful things for Master, and I thought, I want to do wonderful things for Master, that's what I really want now. So I was working in some little office, and I had my computer there, and I put God is the doer on my computer. God is the doer. Swamiji came around, this is my maybe first job at Ananda. Swami came around to visit us, and we were all very excited to see him come, and he walked around and he looked at my computer and he said, God is the doer. Fantastic. And I thought, it is fantastic. It's also my fantasy that, only God is the doer here, because I'm still working with my ego. So I thought I would be helpful, and I had been in the world working in corporations, and I'd been executive assistant, and I, had done certain services for the bosses of the various places I'd been. And one of them was I had a good education in English, and so my grammar was pretty good, my punctuation was pretty good. So one of the things I'd done standardly was to fix their letters for them. They'd give me a rough and I'd make it nice, and I liked to write, and I'd make sure everything was good, and I'd give it back, and they were really happy. So I thought, oh good, I want to do more, for Master. This is one little thing I have. So my boss gave me a letter, and I did my thing, I made it all nice, and I gave it back to him. He did not like that. That was not what he wanted. And so he went to Swamiji. He said, who is this girl? She comes and she's supposed to work for me, and she's changing my letters, So Swamiji called me up and he looked at me and he said, seek to be the least, and God will give you your rightful place. And that was in my first year of Ananda, and now I've been there for 30-some years. I don't think I can count the number of times that phrase has come to my aid. Whenever people treated me in ways that were hurtful, whenever I really wanted to do something but it wasn't time to do it, whenever I thought, I could help there, but nobody wanted it, whenever I was asked, whenever somebody just push me down, because that happens with brothers and sisters on the path. We're all just doing our best. But I had that little handy line that I could go to just hold in my heart. Seek to be the least. And as soon as he told me that, because he was my spiritual teacher, immediately I went to the highest. Well, what does that mean? Seek to be the least. And I'd read a lot of Christian saints growing up, so I said, that often happened to them. They were nobodies. They were nobodies, but they found God with their love for God, their devotion for God. So it isn't about an outward, what people think of you, what job you have, what title you have, what money you have or car you have, or you can go on and on and on like that. It isn't about that. It's about the simple devotee heart being humble, isn't it? Just God will give us. God will give us what is ours to have. So not to be so stressed out about whether it happens today or tomorrow, or whether it's fair or it's not fair. It has been a wonderful, wonderful gift to open up many, many times. Oh, I'm upset. I wish things, seek to be the least. How can I just be humble? Tune into what God wants here, not what I want to see happen. There's another story that also involves the theme of contentment. many of you know there was this lawsuit, sort of time of persecution that Ananda had. We had to go to court. People were suing us about sharing Master's teachings, which he told Swami to do, but others were saying, no, we don't want you to. So we had to go to court and fight a whole long series of court battle. And during one of the times, they brought Swami in and basically were doing all they could to persecute him and make others think that he was a bad person. And some of us got to testify, and I was in the court as one of the ones, and we were waiting outside, and they were doing their psychological warfare. They were making us all wait for days and days. We had to take off our jobs, and we had to wait out there, and they would look over at us, and they would do things like, I mean, they would be like really, mean and nasty, and they had curse words that they had on their screen that they put in front of us, and just try and bring our energy down, as much as they could. And we were all holding our own in the waiting room, and we didn't know when they were going to make us go into the court, so we all had to stay there day after day, waiting for our time. So we were there, and there was a bunch of people, a lot of older devotees, and they were sitting there. And day after day goes by, you have to have something to make your mind busy, active. So people had brought books, and there were just an unusual number of mystery books. For some reason, everyone was interested in mystery books at that time. So they were reading their mystery books, who done it, getting all the clues, and it was engaging their mind and making them not, have to look at all those bad guys. And I felt like, I've never been to court. I'm kind of scared. I don't know what's going to happen, So I held my little baby Gita, that blue book many of you have seen with Sir Edwin Arnold. I thought, I'm taking this with me. I'm taking my Gita, and I'm going to open it. I'm going to try and read it and bring Krishna's presence. I'm going to get that comfort, and I'm going to be okay. So I had my book, and I was reading it like this and reading it like this and trying to concentrate on the slokas. And Devi walked by, and she said, oh, everyone's reading mystery stories. And she looked at my book, and she said, oh, I know that book. I know the answer. God is the doer. So, finding contentment in the midst of storms, which is one of the affirmations that we had. There was a point in my life where we all have to go through our karmas, and I was going through a particularly big one, and it seemed bigger than I was, and it involved something I'd done that was hurting someone else, and I couldn't do anything other than what I was doing, but I was suffering a lot that this other person was feeling badly, and I was just kind of caught in suffering about it. And I called up Swami one of the rare times. So every couple of years I'd give him a phone call, and I said, Swamiji, this is happening, and da-da-da-da. And he gave me two words, or two sentences. First of all, he said, well, these things happen. And that was it. He'd often give me just like that little thread, to pull me back from whatever suffering I was in. And I thought, okay, it's true, these things happen, so even-mindedness, right? Not to see that, oh, this is my problem and it's so bad and all of this, and getting all involved in the suffering. It's like, okay, these things happen, so just move on. And at the same time, he said to me, suffering is caused by wishing things were other than what they are. Just that simple statement, and to look around. I'm suffering. Am I wishing that things were other than what they are? Because things are the way they are. And it's every circumstance is neutral, as Yukteswar said, and it's our tendency of mind and our reaction to those things that determine our happiness or unhappiness. It's neutral. So just to bring back that contentment, I had a practice which I started doing. I was having some physical ailments, and you know how it is when your body's not well for a while. It's hard to keep your mind going, your thoughts uplifted, and so you can find yourself sinking a little in that. And I was looking for a way to kind of get up, and as Swamiji. It was going on for a long time, and he gave me the advice. He said, don't be afraid to go to work when you're not feeling well. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I'll try and do that. I'll just try and, push myself a little bit more. Now, of course, there's always being reasonable and rational and taking care of the body as you need to. But for me, it was the right advice, is to push a little bit more. Not to say, I can only do this much. And just like this last 4 days we've been here with this opportunity to teach more than we've ever taught in 3-day period, it's been a real stretch for us. And there's been so much joy in it, and so much kind of exhilarated grace of energy by saying yes. Narayani said, now I've got you on for this and this, and how about this and this, and how about that and that, and would you like this and that and that? Now, if it's too much, please tell me. She's my friend. Please tell me, are you sure it's not too much? And I thought, well, I trust God. I trust Narayani. She's my good friend. I'll just say yes. I'll just say yes. Yes, yes, yes. So yes, yes, yes. This morning I woke up and I went, do I have anything more to give these people? Haven't I just been squeezed out? Isn't it all gone? And so, we just say yes. And then this morning, when it comes to that point where you're just like, I can't do anymore, I find there's this wonderful secret, which you probably discovered. Okay, God, I can't do it now. You have to do it. You have to do it. I said yes, I'm going to stand up there. You have to do it. And when we stretch ourselves, not just I'm going to do it, but now I really need you to come through and do it. Well, you know what? What do you think? He does, right? If you've tried that. So that say yes to life principle as we move into the new year. Biraj is going to do a good class on getting ready for the new year, so there'll be lots of opportunities to look at your way of approaching it. But the contentment, I think, is there was a point where I was going through a hard time, and I decided, you know what? I'm just going to choose contentment. I'm going to choose it. I'm going to actively decide I'm going to be content. So whatever I could do, and this was, again, I have a body karma thing that flares up. Okay, I can only do the dishes for this morning. That's going to be my big project. I'm going to do the dishes. But how am I going to do the dishes? I'm going to do the dishes with contentment. I'm going to find that contentment. I'm going to go into that contentment. I'm going to enjoy that contentment. And it just opens the doorway, to all those other gifts that come. If there's anything more, we're almost there. Just since we are moving into the new year. At Ananda, when Swamiji was there, he used to have a once-a-year ministers' retreat, and it was early in January. And all the ministers there would come together, and he would say, okay, let's choose a theme for this year. Let's have one thing that we're all working on together as a spiritual principle. So I was there for about 3 years of that wave. I wasn't a minister, but I heard, where I was working for Ananda, I heard, okay, they found the theme. Swamiji's theme is out there. Okay, what is it? The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. Oh my gosh, that year was so big. We all just found ourselves doing so much more, going to so many more things, doing more seva, more and better, like Yanamata used to say. And by the end of that year, all the ministers and Swamiji were saying, whew, we lived it. And it's that kind of energy that has built Ananda to what it is, a worldwide organization. And I see so much of that energy here in so many of you, just being willing to do more, to say, yes, I will have more joy, more contentment in my life. I will have more blessings. I will share what I've gotten so that there will be more light. I love that affirmation you all have, giving light to all of Mumbai, expanding the light in Mumbai, because that's the devotee's blessing, and also the disciple's job, really, is to to share that light, because we really, really, really have that which we give away. You know, we were doing the healing practices. We had a session on that, and the theme we always bring that back to is the instrument is blessed by that which flows through it. You know, you can't. You know, have you ever tried, you know, feeling like, oh gosh, I don't know if I have enough, and then someone's birthday comes along and you really love that person and you find the perfect present and you give it to them. How good does that feel? You feel so blessed to give that thing to someone you love. So the instrument is blessed by that which flows through it. So my hope for everyone this coming year is that you feel more and more of God's grace and blessings and contentment in your lives, and that everyone around you be blessed, even quietly as that vibration emanates out. It doesn't have to be outward, but it will if you just open yourself. And that's it. Om.